A few weeks ago, I had a meeting with a wedding couple, and usually these conversations are pretty surface level. We get to know each other a bit. I find out about their religious background, and this couple was not into small talk. They dug right into the real stuff. One of the things that we talked about was Judaism's emphasis on action. The rabbis who wrote the Midrash and the Talmud don't worry too much, at least initially, about what we believe. This is made clear in a relatively well-known Midrash in which the rabbis note that in the story of the giving of the Torah, the people of Israel say they will keep the commandments even before they hear or understand them. And for us as contemporary non-Orthodox Jews, this is not blind obedience. It's about the realization that our actions, not our beliefs and not our intentions, are what are going to change the world for the better. Shabbat gives us a weekly opportunity to rest, remove ourselves from the distractions of our lives, and rest upon ourselves, reflect upon ourselves in the world. Reflection is only the beginning. The real purpose of that reflection is to inspire action once Shabbat comes to an end. And this idea of action being the central focus of Judaism also came up this week in my personal study. I've been reading the sermons of the Maggid of Mezrich, and they offer a powerful reminder that while inner spiritual life matters deeply, Judaism ultimately asks us to embody our values through what we actually do. And this week's sermon was a reminder about a rabbinic concept, keva versus kavanah. And this rabbinic idea asks the question, what is more important? The fact that the commandments occur at a set time and situation when they simply must be done, keva, or the fact that we bring the proper intentions to the performance of the commandment, kavanah. The rabbinic answer is not surprising. In almost all cases, the real concern is action. From the Orthodox perspective, the commandments must be done. There are a few exceptions, like when we say the Shema, we also have to have the proper kavanah, the proper intention. Nonetheless, almost all of the time, the traditional obligation to perform a commandment is exactly that. We have to do it. As the Talmud teaches us, contemplation does not count as recitation. In Jewish law, sitting and staring at the prayer book and contemplating the ideas within it do not satisfy the commandment of prayer. One actually has to recite the words, or if one is illiterate, simply say the word Amen. One has to do something. Thinking about it is not enough. This is a place where the rabbis are in complete disagreement with early Christianity and the Gospel of Matthew. In Matthew, Jesus says, I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lustful intent has already committed adultery with her in his heart. According to Jesus in this text, I should say according to the person who wrote, according to Matthew, intention matters in the case of adultery. Merely wanting to commit adultery is a sin. And in rabbinic Judaism, having sexual desire for someone other than your life partner is not encouraged, but it is not itself a sin. By definition, it is action that makes it a sin. Now we understand a bit more about the rabbinic emphasis on recitation over contemplation, on action over thought. Sitting atop a mountain with your eyes closed, contemplating everything can be a profound experience. The rabbis do not deny this, but the real purpose is to come down from the mountain and use that new awareness to inspire life-changing and world-changing action. So let's return to the Hasidic teaching that I encountered this week. The Maggid of Mezrich asks an important question. Why is there such an emphasis on action over thought? Why do we have to actually perform both a commandment or a sin for them to count? The answer is that while Judaism does, his answer is, while Judaism does not elevate the soul above the body, or denigrate the body below the soul, as we often find in the writings of Plato. And I'm going to digress. I have to digress on at least every sermon once. I took a class in grad school on Plato and the body that was led by a professor, Andrea Nightingale, who is just absolutely brilliant. And what we did was go through Plato and find texts about the body that contradict the general, the usual interpretation of Plato, that Plato's all about the soul and denigrates the body. And that is not always the case. It was really cool. This is one of those seminars where she was testing her ideas on us before she wrote the book. So I was honored to do it and read the book later. So, all right, back to our text here. The body, nevertheless, needs more help than the soul. When we think about a commandment, we draw God's light into the soul. That is good and necessary, but the soul already has a relatively easy time connecting to the divine. When we actually perform a commandment, like saying a prayer with our mouths, we draw God's light into the body itself. And that is even more transformative because the body needs more help remembering its connection to holiness. It's constantly distracted by ordinary temptations of life, comfort, desire, ambition, and all the things that pull our attention away from what the Maggid would call ruchniut. He wouldn't say ruchniut, he'd say ruchnius, godliness. By performing commandments with our bodies, we remind ourselves physically of our connection to God. We make it more likely that our actions will bring goodness into our lives and into the world. And this is something we can put into practice on this Shabbat. Shabbat invites us to examine our lives. We think about mistakes we've made. We think about the joy of everyday life. And that kind of contemplation is valuable. But according to the rabbis, it's only a piece of the puzzle and a relatively small one. The rest of the pieces are putting this newfound awareness into action. We need to apologize to people directly when we mess up, and we must also learn from what we've done right. Making things right in the world only starts with contemplation. The result of that contemplation needs to be action. We do not just think about what we've done wrong, we fix it. We don't simply enjoy life, we take that joy and use it to inspire and reveal godliness in the world. That's what our tradition asks of us. Shabbat allows us to reflect, but Judaism never lets reflection become an end to itself. We're supposed to think about our lives, and then when Shabbat comes to an end, we carry those insights into the week ahead through the choices we make and the deeds we perform. Reflection matters, but action changes the world. Shabbat Shalom.